Let us take a critical look at what happened in Anambra State last Saturday, November 8, 2025, where Professor Joash Ojo got re-elected as the governor of the state. We have heard a lot. Let us summarize. The Guardian of Monday, that is yesterday, November 10, 2025, contains a report entitled Soludo Triumphs in Anambra State, as ADC and others decry vote buying. The ADC, represented by its spokesperson, Bolaji Abdullahi, is quoted as calling the election a mockery of democracy. Some other stakeholders noted that the prominent feature of the election was the preponderance of vote buying, apathy, and allegations of intimidation. What took place at the election, as far as the observers are concerned, was a ruse and subversion of the people's will. Yes, that the election was marked by massive vote buying and shameless financial inducement at polling units across the state. It was pervasive. Oh my God. Voters were openly induced with cash, raw cash, emphasis mine, ranging from 3,000 naira to 20,000, which turned the process into a marketplace rather than a democratic exercise. Again, Bolaji Abdullahi of the African Democratic Congress decried what he called the silence of the security agencies and the inaction of electoral officials. I take that again. The silence of the security agencies and the inaction of electoral officials, saying that it compromised democratic values. Dr. Paul Chukwuma of the Young Progressives Party, the flag bearer of the Young Progressives Party, YPP, has indicated that he will challenge the many infractions in court. I cannot tell it all. Independent observers were not pleased with how the elections went because of massive vote buying. But the governor of Anambra State, Professor Joash Ojo, prepared the ground for it. Yes, in many ways, with particular reference to praising the what he calls the economic reform of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Remember, if you are my follower, I asked him what economic reform. Economic reform of fuel subsidy is gone. All other subsidies are gone. With hyperinflation tugging at commoners, and the government paying less than living wage to workers. So, which economic reform? Economic reform of fraudulent palliative schemes. And remember that Charles Soludo is a former governor of Nigeria's central bank. So he should know that he's talking rubbish, but that he was talking rubbish, but he had his goal. Beyond praising the so-called economic reform of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Charles Soludo has severally invited President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Anambra State, giving him and some other states of the so-called All Progressives Grand Alliance party of Charles Soludo, and assuring the president that APGA will vote for his re-election, because the constitution of APGA is that it should support whoever is in government as the president. So, he has given olive branch to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in view of his re-election in 2027. What else are you expecting? So, and then several chieftaincy titles have been given to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So the relationship is was established and nursed because Charles Soludo knew what he had in view, his re-election. So I would otherwise I would have expected, and I called his attention to it, the new chairman of the Independent Electoral of Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan. I called his attention when Charles Soludo was quoted as indicating how many millions we go to local governments and wards that deliver the most votes to APGA in the coming election. And that means himself, because he's the flag bearer of APGA, seeking re-election and promising cash reward to local governments and wards that would deliver the most vote for the party. So the accusation of massive vote buying testified to by several sources, if not many sources, is in line with the promise and the body and voice language of Charles Soludo. And now that the security agencies were silent, they looked away, and that the electoral officials also did nothing, took no action against the massive vote buying at polling units, cash and carry. So the indication ultimately is that Professor Amupitan will not be different from Professor Mahmood Yakubu, his predecessor, chosen by the same so-called All Progressives Congress. So, when people are looking for power, they make empty promises, rhetorics. And that was what, so when they are looking for power and when they get to power, they continue to use rhetorics to boost their own image. But but action speaks louder than voice, and action is clearer than words. So it's like looking at a picture. That's what action is, because it's a fait accompli, something already done. But the whole situation, as I've described it, how Charles Soludo prepared for all of this to happen. So his alignment with the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the romance between the two of them, the interaction that became so cordial, so cemented. Even if they didn't take a vow or take any cultic action, the two of them are, they have a sealed understanding, and the whole world can see it. So, but that the action of the security agencies and the electoral officials buttress the fact that my suspicion that this new electoral chairman will not be different from his successor. Professor Mahmood Yakubu, if he sees that election does not favor the so-called All Progressives Congress, he can decide to say that because of one or two things, the election was inconclusive. Whereas if it is in favor of the All Progressives Congress, such a concept will not be brought up. And sleight of hand like that throughout the reign of Professor Mahmood Yakubu. And unfortunately, Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan has showed us the card in black and white that I am chosen by the All Progressives Congress, so by the president Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Well, the People's Democratic Party ruled Nigeria for about 15 or 16 years, during which it also ensured that it will be the president choosing the electoral umpire, the boss of the electoral umpire. When Nigerians wanted him to implement the electoral reform as recommendation, the electoral reform recommended by the Electoral Reform Committee of Justice Mohammed Uwais, now of blessed memory, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who set up the committee, developed cold feet on the recommendations and put it under the carpet, swept it under the carpet. When he was succeeded by his vice president, Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan, under the platform of the same People's Democratic Party, he also swept it under the carpet, but instead chose Professor Jega, Atahiru Jega, as the chairman of INEC, knowing that Nigerians is a trusted personality for the positions he has held as president of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities and the former vice chancellor, who had good record. So Nigerians trusted him. But it's different from a strong personality. Is not the same thing as a strong institution. Professor Atairu Jega stood for uprightness, and you cannot sway him. And so Nigerians accepted him. And you see that when Nigerians rejected Goodluck Jonathan, what is his name? Atairu Jega did not come to his rescue. He did the needful. He took the righteous path. Failure to institutionalize is a truly independent INEC is what we are witnessing now. The PDP must be regretting. The APC is coming to regret. Because the person who owns today will not own tomorrow, which is the story of the PDP, People's Democratic Party. Yes, So whatever you sow, you will reap, one way or another. That is all I can say. But there is no indication that this, if he would do the right thing, he would have taken Charles Soludo to task when he came out openly indicating how many millions we go to local governments and what that vote the most for his own APGA, which means himself. But nothing, no action. The INEC chairman and INEC as institution looked the other way when he was making, and now in practical terms we have seen what happened. And so what are we to expect from this INEC chairman? But of course, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. It takes the likes of Atairu Jega to be upright, irrespective of who pays the piper. As a matter of fact, it's Nigeria paying the piper, not the president. So that is the haram that the Boko Haram Muslim community is talking about. That's the haram, because it's not your money. You should employ somebody to serve Nigeria. You employ somebody that will serve you and your interest. So that is where we find ourselves. But so we continue to hope in God, trust in God, and eventually, by His grace, we shall be liberated. Nigeria shall be liberated by God's grace. You, opposition political parties, I think you are too many fighting the incumbent governor. That's another thing. No compromise, no, you all want to become the governor. That's part of our problem. We shall see how many political parties will confront President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027 and mess up the life of Nigeria, so that these corrupt people retrogressing Nigeria since 2015 to date will continue in 2027. That is the handwriting that one can read on the wall for now. We pray for the best.